Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive deep into the heart of communication. But here's the twist. It's not about becoming a better speaker, it's about becoming a world-class listener. We're going to explore how to turn one-way broadcasts into genuine two-way connections. So, let's get right to it.
So let me start by asking you a question. Just think for a second about any important conversation you've had. Maybe it was a big presentation, a tough talk with a family member, or a critical meeting at work. What do you think is the single most dangerous thing that can happen in that moment? It's probably not what you think. It isn't a disagreement. It's not even getting angry. It's something much, much quieter.
That's it. Silence. It's the black hole of conversation. It's where connection goes to die. Because when you're met with silence, your brain goes into overdrive, right? You start wondering, did I say something wrong? Are they even listening? Do they care? That uncertainty, it just crushes trust and kills any great idea before it even has a chance. So, our goal here today is pretty straightforward. We're going to learn how to defeat that silence. We're going to equip you with the tools to replace that destructive quiet with active, meaningful feedback so your conversations don't just survive, they actually come alive.
You see, I think a lot of us mistakenly treat conversation like a game of catch. One person talks, and the other person just catches it. But that's not how it works. A real productive conversation is much more like a ping-pong match. The sender serves the ball. That's the information. And for the game to continue, the receiver has to hit it back. That return shot, that's feedback. If you stay silent, you haven't just missed the ball. You've ended the game.
So how do we keep that rally going? Well, we're going to start with level 1. This is the absolute foundation. It's the simplest, most fundamental skill that tells the other person, hey, I'm here, I'm with you, keep going. It's the green light of conversation.
And the technical term for this is back-channeling. It's all those small verbal and nonverbal cues we give. You know, the the mm-hms, the wows, or even just leaning in a little closer, raising your eyebrows, and of course, the incredibly powerful nod. These signals don't interrupt the speaker, they encourage them. They're like saying, you've got my full attention.
But, and this is so important, not all nods are created equal. On the left, you've got what I call the robot nod. It's fast, it's constant, and honestly, it's a little insulting. It sends the message, okay, hurry up. But look at the one on the right, the empathetic nod. It's slower, it's more deliberate. This nod says, I'm processing what you're saying. I'm thinking along with you. The difference is subtle, but the impact is massive. One shuts people down, the other invites them to open up even more.
All right, so we've given the green light, we're showing that we're engaged, now it's time to level up. Level 2 is what I call the logical mirror. This is all about making absolutely sure that what you heard is what they meant. This is how we fight misunderstanding and build perfect clarity.
And the logical mirror is built on 3 core techniques. First up is rephrasing. This is where you simply restate their point, but in your own words. Next is clarifying. This is your tool for digging into those vague words people use. And finally, there's summarizing. At the end of a key point or the whole conversation, you just quickly recap the highlights to make sure you're both walking away with the same understanding.
Let's make this real with a quick case study. Imagine a client looks at your design and says, I don't like this blue. It feels wrong. It's not luxurious. Now, what's your first instinct? Probably to get defensive, right? To explain why you chose that blue. But that's a conversational dead end.
Instead, you pull out your level 2 tool. You use the logical mirror. You might say something like, okay, so to make sure I'm getting this right, when you say luxurious, you're thinking of a tone that feels maybe a bit more deep, more stable. Is that kind of what you're after? And just like that, you've shifted the entire dynamic. It's no longer a conflict, it's a collaboration. You're now on a shared mission to find the right blue.
Now, we've handled the logic, but what happens when things get emotional? When someone is frustrated or upset or angry? Well, that's when the logic completely fails. In a storm of emotion, logic is like a paper umbrella. And that's where level 3 comes in. This is the emotional anchor.
The core skill of the emotional anchor is something called validation. You can think of it like emotional first aid. When someone is emotionally hurt, you can't just jump to solutions. You have to clean the wound first. Validation is that process. It's simply acknowledging that their feelings are real and legitimate. And the key thing here is you don't have to agree with them to validate them.
And this is the distinction that changes everything. Look at the difference. Validation is saying, I can see why you feel angry about that. You are accepting their feeling. Agreement, on the other hand, is saying you're right to be angry. That's accepting their argument. One builds a bridge by showing empathy, the other forces you to take a side.
So let's try another, even tougher scenario.
You're giving an employee some difficult feedback, and they start to cry. They say, I've been working until 9 p.m. every single night on this. Now what?
Your logical brain might want to say, okay, but crying doesn't solve anything. Let's just focus on the facts. And while that might feel efficient, it's actually disastrous. You're basically telling them your feelings are irrelevant, and that just builds a giant wall between the two of you.
The right response is to drop that emotional anchor. You take a breath and you validate the emotion. You say something like, wow, I can see you're feeling incredibly unappreciated and frustrated right now. By simply naming the emotion, you give them a lifeline. You show them that you see them, not just their work, but them as a person. And only then, once they feel heard, can you move on to solving the problem.
All right, we've built our foundation. We've learned to handle logic, and we've learned to handle emotion. Now it's time to put it all together into the ultimate technique. I call this the catch and throw. This is how you turn disagreement into collaboration.
It's a really simple three-step method. First, you acknowledge. You listen to what they're saying, and you find just 1% of truth that you can agree with. You catch their point. Second, you add. You connect your idea to theirs using the word and, never but. Finally, you ask. You throw the conversation back to them with a question that invites collaboration. Now, the secret ingredient here is the word and. Because think about it. The word but is like a giant eraser. Anytime you hear, I really like your work, but what happens? You immediately forget the compliment and just brace for the criticism. The but completely negates whatever came before it.
The word and, however, is a connector. It's a bridge. It says, I hear your idea, and I'd like to build on it. It signals that you're on the same team. And as you can see from the research here, this isn't just a feeling. The perceived cooperativeness of a statement goes through the roof when you simply swap that one little word.
So, we've covered the theory, from simple green lights to advanced emotional anchors. But just knowing this stuff isn't enough. The real magic happens when you put it into practice. So now it's your turn. Your mission, starting today, is self-mastery. And I've got a 24-hour challenge for you. It's 2 simple things. First, go on a but detox. Just for one day, try to replace every single but you say with and. Just observe what happens. Do people seem less defensive? Second, do a mirror audit. If you can, have someone record you for just a minute while you're listening to them, then watch it back. Are you the robot nodder or the empathetic nodder? This isn't about judgment, it's about building awareness.
And I want to leave you with this final thought. Mastering this art of active connection isn't just about having better conversations. It's really about being a better leader, a better partner, and a better friend. Because a truly great leader isn't the person with all the answers. They're the one who creates a space where everyone else feels safe enough and valued enough to share theirs. Listening is not a passive act. It is the most powerful and active form of leadership there is.